But in order not to shock everybody in this class, you're all going to be shocked by what it says, but you at least have to a little bit background. David has just finished a war. King David HaMelech, just finished a war against the Ammonites. Okay, who are the Ammonites? The Ammonites are a nation who live in today's Jordan, right? That's why the capital of Jordan is called Amman. Amman, because the people who originally lived in that country were for Ammon. Okay, Ammon was one of the sons born to Lot from his daughters. So there were Lot's sons and grandsons at the same time, right? Because they were his sons and his daughter's sons. Anyway, they had two sons. One was Ammon, one was Moab. One lived in North Jordan, and one lived in the southern central Jordan. Okay, Moab lives more to the south. Ammon lives in the north. Okay, David's delegation that he sent to Ammon had been insulted by the Ammonites. Please come in. We may have to bring a chair. Okay, what had happened was the king of Ammon, whose name was Nachash, which means a snake, but that was his name. He had died, and David felt a debt of gratitude to these Ammonites because when the Moabites had wiped out David's family, one remained and fled to Ammon and was saved by the king of Ammon. So when the king of Ammon died, David sent a delegation. He didn't go himself, but he sent a delegation to convey his condolences to the royal family. Okay. Whilst this delegation were there, they were suspect of spying, because they didn't believe the Jews would send a delegation to do this, because it's against Jewish law to do such a thing. The Torah says about the Ammonites, you shall not inquire of their peace. Just like you're not allowed to marry Ammonites when they convert, you're also not supposed to make a pact or go into some type of alliance with them. So the Goyim, the Ammonites, felt that David would never have sincerely violated the Torah law. It must be that he's actually trying to spy on us. Okay? Yes?
This is also stuff from today, like, you're not married to people with Jordan?
No, the people of Jordan are Arabs, right? Many hundreds of years ago, all these nations were mixed up by a king called Sancherib. His policy was any country that he conquered, he would take the inhabitants and move them somewhere else. So the people are all mixed up, right? So, like the 10 lost tribes, that's his fault that they got lost, because they were taken to areas in other places of the world. Okay?
David broke the halakha?
It could be.
Oh.
I don't know, whatever. That's another subject,
okay.
Right? No, it could be David felt it's okay because he owes him a debt of gratitude, whatever. That's another thing. Yeah, it could be it was a mistake. Yeah, it could be it was a mistake, right? It could be that he was a genuine mistake, an honest mistake, but yes. But anyway, the Ammonites certainly felt that David was doing something which was not acceptable by Jewish practice, and therefore it must be that he's actually spying on them, and therefore but they didn't have any evidence he was spying, so they sent back the delegation after insulting them. What did they do? They shaved their beards half off and cut their clothes half off, and that way they were publicly humiliated. And so David saw this as an act of aggression, and he went to war against the Ammonites to put them in their place. Okay, so this war has taken quite a long time. Originally, the Syrian mercenaries helped the Ammonites. They didn't help them, and they came to a second war a year later. Okay, during that second battle, there's a very, very interesting story we spent many classes discussing, but it's not what we're going to do now. Right? That gets a sidetrack to the story of David and Bathsheba, which we're going to not discuss today because that would take us sidetracked again. Okay, so eventually it comes to the end of this battle, and David comes to finish off the battle. That's what we learned yesterday. Yoav, who's the commander of the forces, he sends a message to David, and he says, "We've almost finished. We've almost completely captured the Ammonites. You come, and then the conquest will be attributed to you, and that's the right thing to do." Okay, so they do that. And we mentioned that they conquered the capital city after conquering the other cities, and they took much booty, and they took the crown, which weighed approximately 45 pounds, right? Something like that. And we had a whole discussion about what you would do with such a crown. I did Googled yesterday. It says the heaviest crown in history is just over 2 kilo. It's called the King of Tonga, right? Had a crown made in Austria, and it weighed just over 2 kilo. And so this gives you an idea of and that's really heavy, apparently. And the Queen's crown is a little bit over 2 pounds or something like that. Now it's also considered very heavy, right? Okay, so this is like enormously, phenomenally much heavier. So you have to explain it somehow or other. Either it was a miracle, but then the problem is that it was the king of Ammon also wore it. So you'd have to say with his idol. Lots of different suggestions that we discussed yesterday. Okay, each leading to a different problem. Right? None of the solutions are smooth, because it's always like that. If there was one solution that was smooth, then everyone would say that. It must be each of the solutions has got a problem with it. Just the question is, which problem we prefer to avoid or disregard. Okay, so the last pasuk says what David did to the Ammonite people. Prison of war or captive. They're not necessarily prisoners of war. They're not like soldiers, right? Let's see what it says he did to them. So you can read this pasuk in a way that is very problematic, meaning in our Western 2000 and what is it now, 26 sensitivities, this makes us shudder at the thought that our great tzaddik David, Chassid, Talmud Chacham would do such a thing to people, right? And if that bothers you, you have to think about it a bit, right? Because I think the working point of learning Navi is the assumption that what a great person does is something to be emulated. Because if it wasn't, there's no point in learning it. There's no point in only copying the things that we like, because then we might as well not read it, because we know what we like already. Obviously, we're reading this to be inspired. So if David has a relationship with a married woman, right? So you say, well, we shouldn't be inspired by that because the Torah forbids it. Not only that, David got it over the head by the Navi. So clearly that was wrong, right? However you understand what he did. But if the Navi doesn't come and say, David, how dare you do such a thing? Then we presume that if he's a tzaddik, then it's something we should emulate, right? Now, emulate doesn't necessarily mean copy, because we don't have the same circumstance. You know, we don't live in the same reality that David lived. It's something to praise and see as something that we should learn from, right? That's the assumption. So what does he do? Let's translate it and see how we can make this read it. The Es Ha'am, and the people, right? We're on page 26, Shmuel base, chapter 12, the last verse. The Es Ha'am and the people, that means not the soldiers, the people. Asher Ba, who were in it means the city. City is a feminine word. Ir in Hebrew is feminine. So the people who were in the city, Haitzi, he took them out. Vayosem, and he placed B'Megera. Now I'll translate it literally first. Megera is a saw, thing you cut 3 planks of wood with, right? He put them B'Megera in the saw. Now your imagination can do whatever you want with that, but it doesn't make much. You know, it may be a thing in a fairground called the saw, right? You can imagine something which it's like one of these scary places that's called the saw or whatever, but it's not that, obviously, right? But it doesn't say what it is. The saw doesn't mean that much. Next one, u'becharitze habarzel. Now a charitz means a groove.
In what verse are we at, Rabbi?
Verse 31, the last one. It says Lamed Aleph. Okay, charitze hab on page 26. Barzel is an iron, and in the iron groove. Uvemagzeros habarzel. Now they translate this, a magzera is an axe. The word for axe in Hebrew is usually garzen, where the gimel reish zayin is the root. Gimel reish zayin. Here it has the same letters, but the root is gimel zayin reish. So the Mitzvot says you sometimes find in Hebrew that the words mean the same even though the letters are changed order. For example, Shiur, oy kesef, oy eiz ki yivaled. When an ox or a sheep or a goat will be born. Now the word there for sheep is kesef, even though the usual word for sheep is keves. Same letters, change of order. So you do sometimes, obviously there's a reason, I'm not saying the reason, but you do sometimes, the fact, find a Hebrew word where the letters are changed order and it still means the same thing. So that's the assumption over here, that the root of this word is the same as the root for axe. So he put the people of the city, he took them out, that presumably he took them out of the city, and he placed them in the saw, in the iron groove, and in the iron axe.
Wow.
Now, okay, let's leave it at that. The He'avir Oisam, and he passed them, that means to cause them to pass, means he made them march. B'malbein. Now this is a classic example of a Greek sieve where the text is written malkain, That's actually written. If you take a scroll of Shmuel base or Shmuel and you look in this chapter, it'll have Mem Lamed Kaf Nun, but tradition reads it as Malbain. You notice it's almost the same. A kaf and a base not sound the same, but they look almost identical. Okay? Now, a Malbain means a brick. Like Levanim are bricks. Right? That appears in the story of building the Tower of Babel. Right? When they built bricks, and the Jews in Egypt had to, right? The word mispar halevanim, the number of bricks that they had to produce, was the same, even though they weren't given the straw to make. They had to go on, at the end of the story, they had to go and find their own straw, but they still had to keep the same number of bricks. But malbe means a brick. Okay? And he passed them in the brick. And so he would do. Yaz is actually the future, right? That means he did it not just once, but he did it in every town. L'chal arei b'nei Ammon, to all the cities of the people of Ammon. It means he didn't do this to the cities, it means to the inhabitants of the cities. Obviously the word inhabitants is missed out. It means this thing, which is 4 things, he placed them in the saw, in the iron groove, in the iron axe, and he passed them in the brick. He did to all the people of Ammon. And then, Vayoshev David, and David returned, V'chal ha'amon, the people, Yerushalayim to Yerushalayim. So what's it going on about? So the most extreme understanding of this is the way that David tortured these people and eventually burnt them. That is the most extreme way of reading it. That means he put them through the straw, means that he saw them. He could have just chopped their heads off, which would be the normal way to kill prisoners of war. I mean, assuming that you don't go with the Geneva Convention, right? And you kill prisoners of war, assuming you do that, or they weren't even prisoners of war, they were captives, right? Assuming that he killed them, the normal way would to behead them. That's the quickest and painless way, right? But he didn't do that. He wasn't. He put them in a saw, and he put them in other sort of iron machines. One's called an iron groove, which they say is called a flail. That's what a flail is. F-L-I-L. I didn't know what it was either, but it's a thing that you thresh grain with. You're supposed to. It's 2 sticks, right? In the ancient times, if you look in Google, you'll see a flail. It's like a very nasty thing that people used to fight with. It's a metal thing with a round ball at the end which has spikes. Sometimes they have 1 ball, sometimes they have 2. And Google, it shows pictures with 4 or 5, and it's things that people used to hit people with.
How do you type that flail?
F-L-A-I-L. F-L-A-I-L.
If you think of like a knife, like an armor.
Yeah, right. So according to a flail can be used to fight. It can also be used in for farming, right? But then you use it for threshing grain to take the grain away from its peel. Okay, so David HaMelech is using saws which are meant for cutting trees, and planks of wood, flails which are meant for banging grain, and axes which are meant for chopping trees, but he's using them to chop people's heads and to torture them. And then what do you do with the bodies? So instead of burying them, which you would normally do, he put them into the brick furnace. The furnace missed out in the text. It says the brick, but it means in the furnace that you bake bricks. Now, for some of us, this may remind us of a place called Auschwitz, where people were tortured to death and then their bodies were burnt, right?
Yeah.
So, if you're looking for a precedent for this, you just have to turn to King David. And that's why I said this is a bit of a controversial puzzle, because it doesn't put David in such a good light.
It's like ISIS.
Whatever, that sort of thing, right? Taking the bodies and burning their bodies, right? He doesn't, you could say he burnt them alive, but there's no need to say that, because once he's killed them with these other things, right? But it could be that. It could be some he tortured and some he burnt and some he did both and whatever.
But number says he
So
killed
what do
them.
you learn from this?
Well, one sec. That's the
Get
question.
shot first.
That's the question. Is that really the way to read it? If that's that's a simple way to read it, right? He put them through the saw, through the flails, and through the axe, and then he passed them in the brick furnace. What does all that mean? He didn't come out alive after all that. They could have done, right? I don't know, but it looks like this was his way of killing them. Now, if that's the way you're supposed to understand it, assuming you should read it literally, which is the way some of the commentaries do, right? It's not my job to judge commentaries. If that's what Rashi says and that's what Dan says, that's fine with me. The question is, what are you supposed to learn from it? Are we supposed to treat our enemies like that? It doesn't look like. In the past, David HaMelech had a great story, remember? In Yam HaMelech, and he buried his enemies, and that became Brit Kiddush Hashem. Remember that story? No, most of you weren't here. There was a story that says that David fought against the Edomites wasn't David, Yoav fought against the Edomites in the Dead Sea area, and it became a big Kiddush Hashem. And Divrei Yom, it says, why was it a big Kiddush Hashem? Because he buried their enemies. It was something that people didn't do. In the olden days, you killed your enemies and left them there to be food for the local, what do you call them? Vultures, right? But the Jew says, no, you're not like that. Those are animals. We're human beings, and we bury, even our enemies, we bury them, right? So that's the way you picture Jewish army. You don't picture them doing this sort of stuff, right? That's the problem. So, if you're going to take this literally, which is acceptable, because that's simply the simple way to read it, then it's interesting that the word milkon, right, is maybe a hint to what's going over here. If you remember, Milkon was the name of their god, right? Melech. Melech is the name of the god of Ammon. So the text, as well as telling you, this is what a Krikasif often does. It has two messages in. The simple reading of the text is he put them in a brick furnace. But it also mentions their pagan Avodah Zarah in the story to show you, well, these guys are not innocent Vietnamese or even innocent, right? No, I'm just, or innocent Germans. No, these guys are pagans who take their own kids and put them in fire. You understand? So you have to realize who you're dealing with. These guys, as a common practice, was take their oldest kid and offer them up to their god and burn them. So don't you think these guys deserve something really nasty?
So this was like a tikkun?
Yeah, well, sort of like that. You can use that word if you want. I would call it punishment, but yes.
Or eye for eye in a different interpretation?
Not an eye for an eye. This is one second. What does the Torah do? What are you supposed to do to people who worship Avodah Zarah? In a normal circumstance. Well, that's the case. There's a punishment which basically very rarely meets out, right? Because you have to be warned, there have to be witnesses, and there's all sorts of rules. But basically, that's what the person deserves. Now, if you have a whole nation of people like that, I'm not suggesting we should all go out and fight all the goyim and jihad and kill all the goyim. No, I'm not suggesting we should do that, right? But they're not innocent people who don't deserve that. When Shimon and Levi went and killed all the people from Shechem, yeah? So there's a whole discussion of, did the people of Shechem deserve this? So the Rambam got a whole discussion, what exactly did the people of Shechem do wrong, right? So Rambam says, what's the big deal? They're all pagans, right? That, again, the Ramban's not condoning we should go out and kill all the pagans. No, that's Islam believes. We go on jihad and kill all the enemies of God. No, we don't believe in that, but it's not a question, what did they do to deserve it? It's not like such a big, these are not innocent Germans or innocent people from Saigon or wherever. No, there's lots of innocent people there. And there's lots of innocent Palestinians probably, right? Yeah, but we're not talking about these people who are all pagans, who take their own kids with their own hands and put them into fire. So it's not such a big deal. Right? No, these guys deserve more than normal because these guys have also insulted the Jewish army, right? And we want to make sure that people don't do this again, right? So David doesn't go and fight all the pagans in the world, but a guy who started with his delegation and need to be put in their place, you don't just kill them normally, because if you kill them normally, it sounds like they're just normal sinners. These guys are worse, so therefore David tortured them before he put them to death as well.
But
I don't know how that goes down well with you.
But it doesn't.
What the Nazis think.
But it doesn't mention anything about technically killing
also,
them.
like Sidon.
Oh, I hear you said that objection before, but what do you think he did to them? What does he mean put them through the brick furnace? What does that mean? What do you do with them? They should sit in sunbathe there? No, I agree with you. The question is, that's the simple way to read it. The normal way the commentaries read it means he tortured them and then he burnt their bodies. I agree. The posset lends itself to different interpretation because it doesn't say that explicitly. I agree. But that's certainly the way most people would read this. Right? And what I did now was give a little bit of understanding. We're talking about people who are all pagans, who burn their own children to their gods, right? Hinted to in the Pasuk, right? They also insulted David's delegation, and therefore put it all together, you can hear that's why we don't think that it's so terrible. And you can hardly compare this to what the Nazis did to Jews in Auschwitz, even though it superficially looks similar. Okay.
So
that's one way to read it. Okay. All right. Now again, is there anything to learn from that? Yes. I don't think we should go emulate that, but there's something to understand that these people were serious sinners to God, and God doubly put them in their place. So you say, okay, so just kill them. Why do you have to torture them, right? So I think, and I sort of explain what I think the idea. For example, you've heard of what's his name, Eichmann. right?
Yeah,
Adolf
yeah.
Eichmann. Okay, so he was the planner of the final solution. Architect, that's the thing, very much, right? My English is terrible, so I've got people here correcting me every so often. Okay, he was the architect of the final solution. He was caught by the Israelis, and he was tried, and he was killed, right? He wasn't just killed like a normal murderer, because that was like, that's not enough, is it? If you just shoot him through the head like you would do, or you hang him, right, or something like that, then, so there's lots of other murders who will get the same thing. What you do to show what he did was worse. You do something, what do you do? So what did the Israelis do to him?
Torture.
No, they didn't do that, right? But besides killing, they also burnt his body, right, and threw the ashes
In the sea. Yeah.
right? There could be other reasons why they did that, because they didn't want his body should have a burial site where people could go and say Tehillim or whatever people do at burial sites, right?
Sure.
Okay,
Nazis.
right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't know all the calculations, but I would imagine that's part of the reason. If you just kill him like a general murderer, then you make it out as if, well, that's all he did. He got killed, and basically the same. The crime, the punishment, you wanted to fit the crime. So that could be why David is not just killing them like he would have done to normal pagans, because they weren't just normal pagans who left him alone. And this has to be a warning. You start up with the Jews, this is what's going to happen to you. Right? You're going to get bombed to bits, and don't come complaining afterwards. Don't start with us. Next time, don't start with us, and it won't happen to you. Okay, that's the extreme way to read it. But as Dylan points out, it doesn't actually say clearly in this text that he killed them. It doesn't say that. Okay. Now the Targum Yonason is an Aramaic translation written by Rabbi Yonason ben Uziel, very famous rabbi who's buried up near Tzfas. Ever been there? A place called Amuka. Place in Amuka, it's a burial site all on its own, right at the bottom of a very, very deep hill, and it's isolated from anywhere else. It's supposed to be a segula for getting engaged, getting married if you want to go there. Okay? A place called Amuka. So he was a student of Hillel, and he wrote a commentary. He wrote a translation of the Navi in Aramaic. It's not the translation we usually have in the Chumash. That was written by Onkelos. Right, this is a translation called Yonis, and there he translates completely different. He says that the brick does not mean a brick furnace. The word furnace isn't there. It means a street, a paved street. Right? They've also got bricks. Understand? It's not a place where they make bricks. It means a place which was paved in bricks. And what it means is he dragged them through the streets. That's the way he translates this passage. Completely different, right? Doesn't mean he burnt their bodies in a furnace. It means he dragged them through the paved streets. Again, there's something missing. And like I said before, no explanation will fit in neatly, because if it did, then everyone would say it, right? It doesn't say the word streets. It doesn't say the word paved. It says bricks. Okay, but what does it mean to pass someone through bricks? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. So he says it means to drag them through the streets, which is some sort of, it means on a victory march or something like that. You know, like Titus dragged the Jews through the streets in Rome. Okay, through his victory, I don't know, they took them as slaves and they dragged them through the streets. Right? Okay, what about the first three things, about those iron things? So, others say that those they made them work. It doesn't mean they cut their bodies with these things. It means they put them to heavy labor. One battalion were cutting logs. One battalion were threshing grain. One battalion were chopping down trees, and then they marched them through the streets. Now that sounds okay. You know, that's quite decent. You know, but that's not the normal way of reading it, but it does fit into the words too. So if the first way doesn't sit with you nicely, and it's going to give you problems, and you want to take your keep off and walk out here, or certainly not say David HaMelech Tehillim when he's in charge of this whole thing, you know, then maybe you read it the other way and it will put it in a better light. And I'm not deciding which is right, but there's definitely two versions of how this is to be read. All right? Okay, anyway, next story. So that's the end of the first part of the punishment. Again, with the whole story about David having this affair, one-night fling with this woman who looks like she's married, but according to Chazal wasn't technically, and then he takes her into his house, and he created a big Chilul Hashem, a desecration of God's name, that such a big tzaddik should do such a thing. Whatever this behind the whole story, we spent many, many classes explaining it, but he's being punished now by God for doing this. And the first punishment was the baby that was born from this relationship died. Okay, that's happened. And then she became pregnant again, had another baby, and the name of the second baby was Shlomo. Okay, now we get to the second stage of his punishment. The prophet had predicted that there would be a rebellion from within his own household. That was what the prophet said would be a punishment. And this is about to, well, it's not yet, it's quite a long story till it actually happen, because this is how it starts. Beginning it was as follows. Vayhi acharechein, it was afterwards. Now the reason why the Navi points that out, obviously it was afterwards. If it says it afterwards, it happened afterwards. You know? And now it's true that things aren't necessarily in order, but that you assume they're in order unless you have some question. So why would the Navi point out, and this was afterwards? Of course it was afterwards. There says it's trying to say this is related to what just happened. It's just not historically happened afterwards. Actually, it's related to what we just said. What we just said is David did this awful sin, and therefore he's now being punished, and that's why this happens afterwards, because it's a consequence. Ula Avshalom ben David, to Avshalom, the son of David. Avshalom was one of David's sons. Achot Yafa, he had a beautiful sister. Avshalom has a sister. Ushma Tamar, her name was Tamar. Now Tamar is a family name, right? If you remember, the founding of his family, of David's dynasty, was Tamar, who was Yehuda's wife, right? Well, whatever, right? Yehuda married Tamar, and he had two sons. One was Peretz, one was called Zerach. And David was descended from Peretz. So this girl, Tamar, being Avshalom's sister, means she was also descended from Peretz, from Yehuda, who was married to Tamar. So Tamar is a family name. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be. I've got a granddaughter called Tamar, and she's not descended from David, because her father's a Levi, right? So she's definitely not descended from David. Whatever. You don't have to be descended from Tamar to be called Tamar, but I'm just pointing out it is a family name. Okay? Tamar means?
Date.
A what? Yes, but it means?
A date.
A date, right. A date palm. The tree is called a tamar. The fruit is called a tamar as well.
It's his half-sister, right?
Oh, again, there. How do you know? You know the story. It doesn't say so yet, right? It's interesting. Yeah, okay, we'll get there, right? It says that Avshalom had a sister, right? It doesn't say that David had a daughter. It says Avshalom had a sister. Now, presumably, if it was Avshalom's sister, it was David's daughter. As you'll see, it's not exactly. No, it wasn't Avshalom's half-sister, it was Avshalom's full sister. The other man in the story was his half-sister. Right, we'll get there. Okay, let's go slowly. All right, so Avshalom had a son called Avshalom, and he had a sister called Tamar. Amnon. And Amnon loved her. Hello. Amnon, who's Amnon? Amnon, there's this only standing room now. Amnon ben David. Amnon was another son of David. Now, Amnon and Avshalom were only half brothers, or whatever the definition of half brothers, right? Amnon and Avshalom had different mothers. Right? We know that's very clear, that's explicit in the text earlier, right? That they had different mothers. Avshalom was the son of, what's his mother's name? Can't remember either of their mothers. Could look it up, but it's not in this volume. Yes, it is. It is. Here it is. On page 7. It says the sons of David. The oldest one was Amnon. He was the oldest son of David, born to Achinoam from Jezreel. And then you have Abigail. Then you have third one, Avshalom, the son of Ma'acha, the daughter of Talmai, the king of Geshur. Now that's very interesting, very important for the story. What do we say? That David, third's wife, had a son called Avshalom. So the son from his oldest wife was Amnon. The son from his third wife was called Avshalom. And it says Avshalom had a sister, so that would imply that she was also the daughter of Ma'acha. That's why she's called Avshalom's sister, and she's not called Amnon's sister. Got it? You with me? Amnon and Avshalom are brothers. They're both sons of David. But this woman, this girl, Tamar, is called the sister of Avshalom, but not the sister of Amnon, because they had different mothers. Right? Just like the two men had different mothers, so she was a sister of Tamar.
Hey, what was the oldest wife of David called?
Oh, her name was Achinoam.
Achinoam.
All right? So he loves... Who loves? Amnon loves his half-sister. Call her half-sister because they had different mothers. Loves her.
What kind of way did they love?
Well, it's a good question, because usually the word love is a very positive connotation. Love God. Love your Jewish friend, right? And it means someone who you can have an amazing relationship with, and someone you can give to, and can give to you, and right? That's what it means, right? It looks from here that he thought he loved her, right? In actual fact, he was just infatuated with her gorgeous body.
Meaning if there's going to be conflict.
Yes, it's not. Look,
More than
you'll
that.
see from the story, it doesn't look like he really loved her, right? I mean, we wouldn't have described it like that. So why does the Navi describe it as love? He should have said he desired her, right? Chafetz, chashak. There's lots of words without you saying love, right? You can love ice cream, but it's not really the right word to use, is it? When you don't love ice cream, you like the taste. Yeah. Okay, so we've come to use that word. Yeah. So we've also come to say, I love her body. But again, it's really the wrong word to use. So we, in our corrupt way of using language, say those words, but we really should have used them more accurate. So it probably means he thought that he loved her because he misunderstood the way what he was feeling. That's how I think. Anyway, let's see. Maybe he did love her. We don't know the story yet, right? Vayetzer le'amnon lehischalois. Now, lehitchalot is from the word chole, meaning ill. Lehitchalot means to make himself ill, because the hey tof is reflexive, like lehitrachet means to wash yourself. Lehitchalos means he made himself ill. It means the situation was so pressured, these feelings about this girl that he couldn't do anything about. Obviously, there's nothing he could do to get rid of these feelings. Made him ill.
Lovesick.
Right, that's it. Yeah. Vayetzer, I think means from the word tsar, means it caused so much pressure to him. Not pain. That's tsar with an iron. Tsar means he was under so much pressured that he made himself ill. Ba'avor Tamar, because of Tamar, because he wanted Tamar, Achoto, his sister, which really means, like you said, although it doesn't say that here, it really means sister because they had the same father. Ba'avor, because of, for the sake of, right? Ki besulahi, because she was a virgin. Now, what does that mean? You could mean this is why he loved her. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say this in the previous verse, he loved her because she was a virgin. It doesn't say that. It's only in the second passage it says he was ill because she was a virgin. Right? Now what's one going to do with the other? That, to me, would make more sense. That was the reason why he was infatuated, he so much wanted her. Right? But that's not what it says. It says that's why he was in so much pain and in pressure and ill. Now let's carry on the pasuk. Vayipalei be'enei Amnon. And it became a wonder. Pele is a wonder, or something which is hidden, which is what a wonder is, something which you don't understand. It means it became something beyond his understanding, la'asot la ma'uma, to do anything to her. It means he knew there was no way he could do what he wanted, because, and this is where the Malbim says, because she was a virgin, that's why she wasn't allowed anywhere near anybody else. It means the Besulos were kept in a different part of the palace, and there's no way that he could get anywhere near her. So he couldn't even put his arm around her or give her a hug because they didn't go near the boys. Right? Those who weren't virgins, when I don't know how they became non-virgins because they were married, right? So they were I mean, in the company of men. They may have been in the company of other men, right? They may have gone to the Kiddush, whatever. But the Besulos, they were prized, and they were not. There's no way you get. So he knew she was. He'd seen her, but there's nothing he could do.
What's
That's the way the Malbim says. What? Which word? Me'uma means anything.
Ah.
But it became a wonder or concealed from the eyes of Amnon how he could do anything.
Is that from Nifla?
Nifla is a wonder. A wonder is something that you don't understand how the guy did it. So something which is hidden means it's a secret. A wonder is a secret. I mean, you haven't seen it, but you don't know how it was done. That's the secret. Amnon became hidden or wondrous in the eyes of Amnon of how he was going to do something. How's he going to do something? He doesn't know the solution because he can't get anywhere near her. Can't get anywhere near her to even. Why can't he get anywhere near her? Because she's a Basuna. That's not the reason why. It could also be the reason why he loved her, or he wanted her, or he had this desire for her. But it's not the way the Pasuk says it. The Pasuk doesn't say that in Pasuk Aleph. It says it in Pasuk base. Okay. Ule Amnon Reya. What's a Reya?
Shepherd.
Friend.
Could have been. Right.
Fear.
Fear.
Friend.
Bad. It means a friend.
What?
That's in V'havta l'reyacha kamoicha. You shall love your friend. So Amnon had a friend.
Wait, is it connected because it looks connected to the word ro'i, which is like a shepherd? Does it mean like
That's what he said.
the one that is also
No,
shepherded?
it doesn't do a shepherd. No. When you say after the what does it mean? You shall love your friend. Shepherd like
You shall
yourself?
you shall love the one that is also shepherded like you,
No.
like your fellow sheep.
No, it doesn't mean that.
Fellow sheep.
No. No, you're right. Look, you appreciate this. Look, you're making a good point. Why do two words which are completely nothing to do with each other have the same root? Right? But I think you have to look deeper than just assume that it's as simple as that.
Right.
Yeah, the word ra means bad, the word roa means a shepherd, and the word reacha means a friend. Now, how these words, the word ra'ua means weak. How are these words related? I don't know. You could work that out, but I don't think it's just as simple as that.
Right.
Ra means bad. It's because shepherds are bad. No, it's not that. There's some deeper connection between the words.
I thought Rhea was spelled with a hey at the end.
Yeah, but
It could be,
yeah,
but then
it's
the
like
root
a
is still without that. No, it's still the root without a hey. The hey wasn't hey, it's a root. So you're going to inherit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same way.
All right. So Amnon Reah, he had a friend. What's his friend's name? Yonadav ben Shima Achi David. This fellow was called Yonadav, and he was the son of Shima, who was a brother of David. That means that they were first cousins, right? Amnon and his friend Yonadav were first cousins, because their fathers were brothers. Yonadav ish chacham me'od. Yonadav was a very wise man. Now, normally the word chacham means wise. Okay? That's how it's invariably translated. Our scroll here translates it as cunning. Right? Now the reason why our scroll did that is because that explains the rest of the story. The Malbim, of course, in his beautiful way of seeing things, says no, if it says chacham, it means wise. It doesn't mean cunning. There's a way to say cunning in Hebrew, right? The snake was cunning. It does not say the snake was chacham, does it? What does it say? In the first chapter 3 of Bereshis, and the snake was cunning, it says arum. Now arum also means naked, right? But there it doesn't mean the snake was naked, because all snakes are naked. Doesn't mean that. It means it was cunning. So there's a way to say in Hebrew cunning when you don't mean wise, even though cunning people are wise as well, right? Chacham always means wise in a positive sense. So we're going to have to see the story and justify the Malbims as opposed to Art Scroll's translation, right? Look, Art Scroll does that because that's the way most commentaries do. Most commentators read the word chacham here as cunning, because that fits in nicely. But you appreciate it's not neat to translate the word chacham as cunning. Okay, it's not the normal way. So let's see what he does. So this Yonadav, who is Amnon's cousin, again, Amnon's the one who's fallen in love with his sister Tamar.
No, it's David's cousin, right?
No. This Yonadav is Amnon's cousin, because Yonadav is the son of Shima, who is the brother of David. So their fathers are brothers.
So
Okay,
Yishai was the father of
Shima and David. Correct. Yishai had 7 children.
of Yonadab's father, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, he was mentioned before, and one of David's older brothers who was out fighting with Shaul when David killed Goliath. Okay, he said to him, Madua ata kacha dal ben HaMelech. Madua means why. Ata, you. Kacha, thus. Dal means? Dal.
An Indian lentil.
Yeah.
Indian what?
That was what?
Lentil?
It's like the poor
Oh,
face.
come
on,
Poor
you're from
face. the
England.
low-
Why not?
It's like the poor
Yeah, you
face.
do.
We
the
don't
low-
eat curry. Good? Ayin. An ani, right? An ani. So there's lots and lots of different, and they all indicate different levels of poverty. You can be poor, you can be destitute, yeah, you can be a beggar. There's lots of different words because they actually describe different types of levels of how poor you are. Okay, so dal is one of the words. I don't know the nuances, but dal means poor, and here it doesn't mean poor in the sense of not having any money. It's why do you look so poor? Why you look poorly? Same we said in English as well. Person who's poorly. You heard that expression? You don't say that?
Yeah.
You know, Americans say that. English people do. Poorly means ill.
Yeah, we.
We look poor. Yeah.
Poorly.
Yeah.
So when you say the word poorly, we don't actually mean you're ill. We don't actually mean you've got no money. We mean you look ill. Poorly. Weak. Good. One who is low.
Poorly and
Good.
sickly.
Okay, so that's what it means. Why do you, the son of the king, you're a prince. We don't expect princes have good food, good air, good exercises. No reason why you should look like this. Baboike, every morning. He was once, okay, you woke up one day with a headache. That's why they looked at baboike. It means every morning, right? And the morning is a time when you're supposed to be awake. It's like how 11 o'clock at night when you're half asleep. No, in the morning, it's every morning you wake up and you look like you're half ill. What's going on? What's going on?
Ben HaMelech?
Ben HaMelech, prince, Ben, the son of the
Prince,
king.
yeah.
So he's saying you're a prince, and every morning you wake up looking half dead. Haloi, tagidli, will you not tell me? Tagid, to tell. Haloi, will you not tell me? Please tell me. I'm your friend, right? And Amnon said, told him the truth. Es Tamar achois Avshalom. Tamar, the sister of Avshalom. You see, he doesn't say my sister. So it's clear that she was closer related to Avshalom than it was to Amnon. It's not so clear yet up to the story, but that's clear, right? Now he's saying that, not my sister because we have the same father, we don't have the same mother, right?
Maybe.
Okay, but that means she's not your sister. Okay, she's closer, let's say, put it that way. She's a full sister of Avshalom, she's only half a sister.
Maybe he's using like the Hebrew way of making things look not as bad as it is, like Oyeve Hashem, like the last thing, like
You could say that. You could say that.
But
It's a bit weird. Why pick Avshalom? It could be any other brother. Why? It's more straightforward. What I'm saying. No. Look, we know that Amnon and Avshalom had different mothers. That we know for sure.
Right.
We read that in chapter 1. So if it says that she was Avshalom's sister, then she wasn't really his sister because they had different mothers. Right? So it makes a lot of sense. Achi, the sister of my brother Avshalom, Ani Ohev, I love. And that's the reason why I'm feeling like this. No, I don't have to explain anymore. You understand. There's nothing I can do about it, and I'm going crazy, and I'm making myself ill because of this love that I can't do anything about, right? And it's never going to be any better. Understand? So what do I do? Usually, you wait a few years, you're going to shidduch, and then fine, there'll be an end to it. But this is no light at the end of the tunnel. Now here he's called Yehonadav with a hey. Wasn't called that beforehand, it was called Yonadav. Now, that usually happens when you want to show a person's spiritual elevation. Yonasan, the son of Shaul, David's best friend, is known as Yonasan until the point that he is inspired to a new level of faith in God by watching David kill Goliath. From that point on, he's called Yehonasan. Look in the text, you'll see it. There's a point beforehand he also temporarily was called Yehonasan. That was his own inspiration, but he lost that quickly. That's where we see it. From the point that he sees David's amazing faith in God, going out to kill Goliath, he's known as Yehonasan. Yosef is known in one place in Tanach as Yehosef. You know where? The psalm we say on Thursday, what psalm is it?
The shortest one.
No, that's Tuesdays. The
Yes.
one we say on Thursdays, I think is 78. I think so, right? It's called Lamnatseach Alagitis, Lamnatseach Mizmor Davis, Livnei Kairach, right? And it says, Eidus B'Yehosef Samai. Testimony about Yosef when he went over the land of Egypt. I mean, he went as viceroy around the land of Egypt. At that point, the Pasuk there, Tehillim calls him Yehosef. Why? Because he was spiritually elevated from being a slave in the pit to witnessing God's amazing control over the history of Egypt and making him into the viceroy. So that elevated him. Now, at this point, this fellow called Yonadav gives this cunning advice to his cousin about how he can get hold of this innocent young girl who is his sister. And at that point, he gets a hey. Right? So if you really like Art Scroll, this fellow is cunning, it's hard to appreciate this hey in his name, right? But if you read like the Malbim, he was a Chacham, then you understand he was actually giving good advice. It was actually very good advice, but he messed up, and that's the reason why the awful story happened in the end. You don't know what the story, but it was good advice. He said, Yehonadav says, Shechav al mishkavcha, lie in your bed. Shechav is lie down. Vehischal, and pretend that you're ill. Hischal from the word chayla, make yourself ill. Well, you can't make yourself ill, but you pretend that you lie in bed. Well, he is really ill, he looks ill, right? Pretend you're ill. And then what? Uba avicha lireisecha, and your father will come to see you. You hear you're ill, your father will come visit you. Right? Uba avicha, your father will come, lireisecha, to see you. Ve'amarta I love, and you shall say to your father. Your father asks, what can I do for you? Want me to buy your comic? Do you want me to do this? Right? So you say, this is what I would like. Tavai na tamar achaisi. Please let. Na is please. Tavah, she will come. Tamar, my sister, is please let my sister Tamar come. V'tavreini lechem. and give me bread to eat. That word tavreni is a bit of an unusual word. We've had it a few times, right? It usually means when you're breaking your fast or that sort of thing, but I'm not sure if he's fasting here, but it means to give me to eat bread. Or it could mean food. Okay? I would like her to come and give me some food. Now, David's going to say, why Tamar? Like, isn't that suspicious? You know, there's lots of servants in the palace, lots of people like Tamar. What, you like Tamar because she's pretty? Like, what? How is David going to react? So once he has to explain, which is, V'asasa le'einei es habiria, and she shall make in my view, means in front of my eyes, es habiria, the food, same word, matavreni, whatever it is she's going to make, she should make it in front. I want to watch her making it. Right? Leman, in order that, this is what you've got to say. This is not Yonadav is saying this is why you should do it. This is what you're supposed to say. Tell your father that the reason why I want her to come and give me to eat is so that I can watch her, so that I can see. I want to see her baking it. V'achalti miyada, and I will eat from her hand.
How's that gonna help with the suspicion of David?
Yeah.
This just increases the suspicion. Oh?
Yeah. So you're asking, what's the point of this? Doesn't David say, what? You want her to come and make food for you? You can watch her?
Yeah.
You know, if she makes nice pancakes, then here they're delicious pancakes, right? That would be an excuse. But you don't even like her food. You just want to watch her making it, right? That's what it sounds like, yeah?
Yeah.
Like you say, it adds a suspicion.
Yeah.
So the Malbim says it's exactly what Yonadav wanted.
Uh-huh.
Yonadav wanted that David should
Figure
know
out.
that this guy loves her. So he can't say it to his father. It's embarrassing, right? Say it in a way that your father will twig on. And then what? And then what? What's the point?
Then he can set it up.
David says a Bashira.
But they're brother and sister, aren't
He
they?
helps.
Just a minute. Aren't they brother and sister? No, half brother and sister.
Shidduch.
He
Just a
gives
minute.
Father.
Well,
Oh,
one second.
okay,
Dylan's
I-
saying he'll find a shidduch. Since he knows he's fallen in love with his sister, so David will find someone who's just as good looking as his sister.
Yeah.
So then he just say, Dad, I want to get married to someone good looking. Why does he have to bring his sister into the story?
But
Yeah.
It's a bit weak. Oh, so what's your suggestion? That once again he'll introduce them and says, look, if David gets the message that Amnon is in love with his sister, which he's a bit embarrassed to say, which is why he never said it in the first place, right? Because it's crazy, no one's going to let him marry this woman. So there's no point in pointing out she's still not letting him marry. So you have to know as follows. And this is an amazing secret. You'll see later on in the story, but I'll tell you now to make it make sense. Yeah? Which is that technically they weren't brother and sister. Even though they had the same father. Why? How can it be? How can two people have the same father and technically not be brother and sister? Asher knows why. So
Adopted.
then you're not got the same father.
No.
The only way is
conversion.
correct. If there's some conversion in the story. So the question is, right, because if you have the same father but you were conceived when your father was a goy, when your mother was a goy, right? And then the other sibling was conceived when your mother converted, so you're not brother and sister. Because converts are not related to their genetically, right? Halachically, a convert isn't related to his mother.
Converts aren't related to anybody.
Right.
What?
Wait,
So-
do that one again.
Halachically, a
Again.
woman is pregnant,
Yeah.
right? And she has a baby,
Yeah.
and then she converts, and then the baby converts, right? Then technically she can marry the baby. Obviously, you have to wait a while till he's old enough, right? Technically, they're not considered mother because the rule is Gershin is Gaia, a convert who has converted. Kekatan Shenoiladami is viewed halachically as a baby who's been born. You go in the mikveh, come out of the mikveh, you're newborn. No parents, no brothers, no sisters, right?
Wow.
That's how it is halachically. You're not allowed to do it rabbinically, right? Because then the goy will say, when he was a goy, it was forbidden, and now he's a Jew, it's permitted. Like Jews are less serious than being goy, so we don't do it. Right? You're not allowed to do it, but biblically you're allowed to. Now, Avshalom was the son of Ma'acha. Ma'acha was the daughter of the king of Geshur, which means that her father was a goy. Right? There were no other kings, Jewish kings in Eretz Israel. So Geshur is obviously a non-Jewish nation, and Avshalom's mother was a daughter of the king. Now, what was David doing marrying this shiksa? Didn't have enough wives. He had 6 wives. Where does this woman come from?
Political piece.
Oh, so you could have said that, right? Chazal say, right, it was different. It was a woman who he captured in battle. And Aish he fought again, died and fought war against Geshur. And the king of Geshur had sent amongst his troops the pretty girls in order to entice the Jewish men to distract them from fighting. And David found one of these, and he was distracted, and she became pregnant. Who did she become pregnant with?
Tamar.
Tamar.
What about the brother?
Just a minute. From Tamar. And then she converted. And then she became pregnant with Avshalom. So Avshalom and Amnon were brothers, because they had the same father. They never the same mother.
Two Jewish
But-
mothers.
Two Jewish mothers, correct. Right. So they were brothers from the, that's the best way to say it. Both Amnon's father, Amnon's mother, and Avshalom's mother were both Jewish. Different mothers, but they were both Jewish. Never, they were brothers from the father. But Tamar was born from her mother when she was still not Jewish, when she was conceived at a time when she was not Jewish. Right?
Tamar-
And that made it, Tamar wasn't really a sister of Amnon. That means they didn't have the same mother, for sure didn't have the same mother. So Tamar considered her a sister of Avshalom, although technically she wasn't a sister of Avshalom either. Right?
Did Tamar
But at least Tamar and Avshalom had the same mother, right? But Amnon and Tamar didn't have the same mother, and their father didn't really make them brother and sister because she was conceived before her mother converted. So halachically, it was permitted for him to marry Tamar. So he just couldn't get anywhere near her, and what Yonadav says, just tell your dad. You tell him in a roundabout way, and he'll chap, and it's okay, big deal. You can marry her, you're allowed to marry her, so we'll set it up and you'll marry her. You know, you may be embarrassed to tell me, but you told me in a way that I understood. You don't have to tell me, wink, wink, I know what you want. We'll set it up. That's what Yonadav said. And if Amnon had followed Yonadav's advice, everything would have turned out well. But he didn't follow it. And that's the beauty of the Malbim, to notice the changes in the story between the way Yonatan gave the advice to Amnon and how Amnon did it in the end. The message was, pretend you're ill, your dad will come, say hello, and you'll tell him, what would you like? I'd like my sister to come and cook for me so I can watch while she's cooking, and then I'll feed from her hand. Not she'll give me to eat. From her hand means she's like this, right next to you. You understand? That's completely out of place, unless you've got a crush on this girl. Understand? Yeah. And that's what Yonatan wanted that Amnon should imply to his father, and his father will.
And Tamar converted too? Or did she not?
Yeah, she could be. She was already born Jewish. It could be by the time she was born.
No.
It could be that her mother went through a conversion while she was pregnant with her.
Wait.
So that
Even
means
with
that
the child,
mother
But she would still be converted. You understand me? Her mother was converted immediately after she became pregnant,
okay.
and then she was born Jewish. It still wasn't the mother.
Why?
Because it goes by the conception. When she was conceived, she was not Jewish. Get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But she comes out Jewish.
Correct. So it could be she's Jewish, but she's still not related to her
Could
mother.
also just converted after birth.
Could also be that. I don't think you need to think halachically. Even if you're born Jewish, you're still not related.
Wait,
you're
but
conceived
also
not Jewish.
was the-
There's a whole sugi. It's called Hayrasa Shaloi B'Kedusha. That means the pregnancy was when the person was not Jewish. But Hayrasa B'Kedusha is a whole halachic status of that person. What's the din about such a thing?
Wasn't
They
there a
think they're still
time
not related.
when if your father was Jewish?
No, never. That's
That was before
that's
we got the Torah.
that's-
No,
Yes,
wait.
before the Torah was given.
It still doesn't make sense though.
Correct. The Ramban says before the Torah was given, it went after the father.
It still doesn't make sense.
Like it does for Goyim. Even after the
Oh, I
Torah was
know the
given,
verse.
Goyim goes after the father, meaning deciding whether you're a Mitzri or a Edomi, there's a difference. Mitzrim can convert after 3 generations, Edomi can't, right? That goes after the father. Yes.
David meets Macha in Bethel.
Makes her pregnant.
Makes her pregnant. Then before she has Tamar, she
Yeah.
converts.
Right.
So David has a different had relations with a different woman than the now converted woman. Because,
Sort of different, yeah.
But Tamar is born from the same already converted woman. Tamar is not born from Macha before she got converted. Tamar is born from the already converted woman, Jewish. So and therefore the same. She is the daughter of the same woman that gave birth to Avshalom.
If you're right, then you have to say that it didn't happen like that. It happens that she converted after she was born, right? But I'm not sure if you're correct. Like I say, it's a whole subject in the Gemara. What's the status of a person who is conceived non-Jewish and born Jewish? What exactly is it? So I'm not going to go into the details of that because I don't remember them. But it's around. I'm saying if what you're saying is a good point, all you have to say is she was born after, she was converted after.
No, because then she would have to convert herself.
No, I maybe she did convert herself. That could also be a problem. Understand?
Okay.
Okay. You'll deal the Gemara in Ksubas. There's a long sugya about it in Ksubas. They have tests about converting children and fetuses and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
All right. So, well, tomorrow we'll carry on how he actually the story. What
happened?
Amnon changed in the message, and why David misunderstood the message, and why in the end it didn't work out.
How can it be get it that wrong?
I think
What? How can you change the story?
Well, how can you get it that wrong?
Ah, you see.
I may be biased.
Yeah.
I can't say this. It's Lashon Hara.
About who?
Family member.